What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. Recap with Mo, where we get ready to get into another episode breakdown from the show from season 2, episode number 6, titled Pay to Do. Alright, so before we get into this episode breakdown, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit that's going on here, alright? So now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this synopsis for this episode. It states that tensions run high in Colony House when word of the coming food shortage leaks out. In addition, a night at the clinic takes a terrifying turn. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this episode breakdown. So we start this episode exactly where we left off, with Boyd talking to Kenny's mom, trying to reassure her that he has things in order. Also that he's not looking for her forgiveness or her understanding. He just needs her to trust him, just knowing that he has pretty much the town in his best wishes. She's looking at him frowned up, and of course while he's talking to her, he's just trying to tell her all of these things that have transpired, which he knows that she's honestly not going to understand, but he wants to get her to come to grips with what has happened, what has transpired, and let's go ahead and move forward, because ultimately our goal is to get back home. So while he's there conversating, Kenny walks into the diner and he's like, "Why the hell are you here? Why are you bothering my mom?" And Boyd tries to avoid confrontation, so he gets up from the table and begins to leave the diner. So we think, because the next thing we see is Boyd walking on the street towards the church, and when he goes into the church is completely empty on the inside. Like, I was like, damn, Sarah has been busy because all the chairs have been moved, everything. So all of a sudden, while he's closing the door, he's calling for Sarah. Off to the side, there is that music box that we saw in the cave or the house with Martin from previous episodes. So I was like, how in the hell did that music box end up there? And then all of a sudden, he looks over to his left, and there's this ballet dancer, and she's dancing, and then she grabs his hand and takes him along with him, and all of a sudden she opens her mouth, and all of these tentacles or whatnot start to show up in her mouth. So I was like, hell to the knob. I was like, what in the world is going on here? And then all of a sudden, Boyd wakes up in the middle of the diner like he's falling down. He's bumped his head where he's bleeding, and Kenny and his mom run over to assist him with that situation. So we notice that he's busted the back of his head, obviously, and Kenny's mom is like, look, you need to take him to the clinic. So she's still trying to do right by Boyd, even though she knows that he held that big secret from her. So I'm glad to see that all of that shit is going to pan out, at least for right now. So Kenny takes him to the clinic. All right. So from there, we see Ellis, who's standing at the Colony House, and it looks like they're gathering, the residual leftover vegetables and food that they have due to the shortage that they have, which we found out a lot of it was damaged throughout the storm and things of that nature. So they're trying to ration everything out. So he's loading everything on the truck. He's talking to Donna, and Donna's like, hey, we're going to be okay. We're going to load everything up. We're going to head down to the loo, and we're going to pretty much box everything up and see what we have, and we're going to be okay. So from there, she leaves Ellis, and she leaves Fatima, to man the Colony House. All right? So from there, we see Christy with that bad hairdo, with that bad haircut, and she's trying to check herself out in the mirror. So obviously she needs something else for that bad haircut. So she goes to old girl's purse or her bag, her travel bag. And while she's looking for whatever she's looking for, she finds a folder with information in it. pertaining to rehab. So obviously Mary, which I assumed had a problem from the get-go, from the very first time she got there, and I honestly believe that something is going on with all of these people here in this town. We just haven't been able to, predict that, but I'm just assuming that's the case. But in this situation, she finds out that Mary, her girlfriend, her fiance, has had an issue, obviously, with drugs and has relapsed, and she thought it was getting better. So while she's looking at the folder, Mary shows up and she was like, "Hey, why are you in my bag?" And she was like, "Well, I wasn't looking for it. I was actually looking for a hairpin or something like that for her hair." And she just ran across it. Of course, she asked, "What happened? When did you start using?" And then she was like, "Well, when was the last time that you used? Have you used any, or have you partaken of any of the drugs that we have in house here?" And she was like, "Hell no." So she immediately goes to the medicine cabinet and she was like, "Look, everything we got here is what we got. We're rash on, we're pretty much, scrounging around right now for the shit we got right now. So we don't need no drug head around here taking all our drugs, like for real. And we need you." So Mary, while she's talking, is like, "Oh, well, just take all the daggone drugs. Take them all." Like, just own up to it and just say, "Look, yes, I got into the morphine. Go ahead and lock it up so I can't get into it anymore, because I'm going to do it again, because you're in a stressful environment, Mary." So it is what it is, man. Let's move on from there. So from there, we see Kenny and Boyd. So they are walking along this path, and I'm not sure. I'm not really for certain why they're taking so damn long to get to the clinic. But anyhow, so they're walking along this path and they're just talking it out. And Kenny's like, "Well, it looks like I've walked far enough with you. You look okay," because he really doesn't want to have any conversation with Boyd anyway. All right, so because he's still up in his feelings about what he did, with keeping that secret away from he and his family about Sarah. So while he's walking, Boy has another episode where the worms are starting to show up and this pain starts to, act up in his arm once again. So this time, while he's having that issue with his arm, he starts to see that music box or hear that music box playing again. And once he looks off to his left, he sees the music box. Well, it just so happens that Boyd, can't nobody else see the damn music box but you. So you can blame Martin for that. But Martin also told your crazy ass from the get-go to get the hell up out, but you didn't do it. So anyway, now you see this music box that no one else can see. So from there, he sees the music box. He walks upon the music box, and while he's looking at the music box, the doors on the side of the little basement doors start to open up for the cellar. And once again, here's this ballet dancer who's walking about, and then once she comes up on board, I thought she was going to grab him once again, but she doesn't. And she looks at him with this smirk on her face like, "I got your ass. Like, you ain't going nowhere." And I was like, damn, like, these monsters know right now you can't go anywhere. And I'm like, that has to be psychologically draining. Anyhow, Boyd is like, "Did you see that?" And of course, Kid is like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So obviously, the music box, the ballet dancer, as I stated before, Boyd is the only one that can see it. So it is what it is, pretty much. So then we head from there to the colony house, where everyone is pretty much getting ready for nightfall. They're boarding up all the windows, making sure nothing can get into or nobody can get out. And of course, Ellis and Fatima, they're still having this little spat. Well, Fatima is having this spat because obviously Ellis knows something is wrong, but he doesn't know what's going on. So from there, she's pretty short with him. And she was like, "Yeah, I'm good. He would ask how she's doing, what's wrong. "Oh, nothing is wrong." And then obviously, they get to the point where they can actually start having this conversation, because she feels like he's withheld information. If we're getting ready to start this marriage, this union between one and another, we need to be able to talk to, each other. And I agree with that. So, but go ahead and convey your thoughts. Don't sit back and have all these attitudes. We are not in the best place right now to have these attitudes. It's like we can't go anywhere. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way. So from there, we head over to the clinic. And when we get to the clinic, we see Christy and Boyd. So Boyd is pretty much telling her that, hey, something happened to me in the forest, and the guy that was there with me, I know it's hard to explain, but this guy, he cut me, the cut you were asking about earlier that I wasn't honest about. Hey, something happened to me. He put his blood inside of me, and now I'm dealing with some shit that I can't really explain, and I got these worms that's coming. So of course, Christy's like, I see nothing of the sort. So he sounds real crazy right now, but he was like, I know you don't believe me, but look, there's something going on, but if the worst hits, then I need you to take care of it. And she was like, what do you mean by that? And he was like, you pretty much know what that means. And she knows what that means. Like, go ahead and get rid of me before it gets too bad, all right? So from there, we see Kenny and Christy, and obviously Kenny is going to have to stay the night because it's gotten too late. So they begin to talk about Boyd and these visions that he's been having, or these feelings as well, talking about the worms or whatnot. And nobody has seen any worms, so they I don't know if they really believe in him or not, or has he really lost his mind. So that's where they are in this whole conversation right here. And so from there we head back over to the loo, where we see Ethan and his family. They're pretty much putting all the food together along with Donna, trying to ration everything out. And she's talking about, oh, they're gonna be okay for at least a year. But of course, as we already know, oh boy, Jim is not going for that. He was like, look, we got to be real honest right now. There's not enough food here to last no daggone year. And I absolutely agree, Donna. Like, have you lost your freaking mind? Because I'm looking at what the potatoes and all that shit you done brought down here. That's not enough for nobody. So everybody's like, look, we need to figure it out. And then Jim goes into his theory about this is what they wanted. They want us to stress out. So he starts to go into his theories about what's going on as well. And he's trying to convey this information to his family as well, to Donna, like, this is what they want. They're trying to see how hard they can make it and how we can deal with it. It's all in his theory that somebody else is up to this, and that these monsters are not real. It's something that is simulated, and that's what he believes wholeheartedly in his heart. So I hope that's the truth, Jim, but I also hope that it's not the truth, Jim, because it would seem like a waste of freaking time if that was the case. So anyway, we head back down to the clinic, and we see Boyd, who's laying alone, in the clinic bed, and all of a sudden, he starts to have those pains in his arm again, and he starts to see the worms. And then also with that, once again, he starts to see the music box now is in the room with him as well, sitting on the nightstand. And he looks to his right, and then he sees the shadow of the ballet dancer, dancing behind the sheets. So I was like, oh, hell no, like, what's going on now? So, of course, he gets up, and he removes the curtain or the sheet out of the way, and there's nothing there. So I was like, what the hell? Like, did it shrink? Or... But anyhow, so now the ballet dancer comes up from behind him. So now the ballet dancer is becoming more and more aggressive. So the first time we saw her, she danced with him, and then she shows what she is. The second time she shows herself, she doesn't touch him at all, but she just glimpses, looks at him and gives him a smirk and disappears. All right. Now this time she approaches him from behind, and she grabs him, and it's almost like she's trying to kill him. Right? So she throws him down to the bed, and it's like she's trying to suffocate him. And all of a sudden he wakes up from this dream or this vision. And I'm like, what the hell is going on, boy? So from there, Mary comes into the room after hearing all the situation going down in the room, I'm assuming. And she was like, you okay? He pulls out his gun, and she was like, hold on, wait a minute. I was like, yeah. She threw those hands up real quick, bro. So from there, he was like, okay, I'm going to put the gun down. And she was like, yeah, do that. So he's sitting there, and she was like, are you okay? He was like, yeah, I'm good. So from there, we head back over to the colony house, where finally we get to see Ellis and Fatima sit down and talk. hash this shit out, because we need everybody working on one accord when it comes to these creatures, all right? So from there, she pretty much conveys to him that she just wants him to be upfront, don't withhold shit from her. She needs to be able to trust him, definitely, if they're going to go into this marriage, definitely in these circumstances. So I agree, as I stated before. Moving on from there, we hear a commotion going down in the kitchen where Elgin and old boy, I forget his name, but he's cutting some onions or some potatoes or some shit like that. So he accuses Elgin of trying to steal food. Elgin is like, no, I was trying to put some food back in there, place some food in there for everyone to have. But old boy is like, no, you were trying to steal food. So they're like, hey, everybody just calm down. Ellis comes in, Fatima comes in, and old boy stabs Ellis in the heat of the argument. And I was like, oh, hell no, bro. So what are you going to do? It is nighttime. Like, how are you going to get to the clinic? So anyway, the bus driver and Fatima, they help him to the couch, and they try to keep pressure on everything. Old boy is like, oh, I'm sorry. They was like, take his ass out. So I don't even know what happened to him. Did they put him outside? Like, what did they do? Because we don't see anything else with him. So from there, we head back over to the clinic, and now we see Boyd is now looking at the spot where Kenny's father passed away, where the animals had, pretty much attacked him. From there, we see Boyd having this full-fledged conversation with Father Cotry. Now I'm really confused because Father Cotry keeps showing up out of nowhere, having these full-fledged conversations, and Boyd is like, look, all of this shit is going on, whoop, whoop, whoop. And while he's in the midst of this conversation with Father Cotry, Father Cotry is pretty much telling him, hey, you losing your mind. Like, you having this conversation with somebody that does not exist. And while he's having this conversation with nobody that, somebody that's not really in the room with him, Kenny is now watching through the door window while he's talking to Father Cotry. So when he's almost done with this conversation, Kenny walks in and he's like, who the hell are you talking to? And Boyd is like, look, just calm down. Now Kenny starts to shut the door, and he was like, no, who in the hell are you talking to? Because Mary has already pretty much told me how you pulled the gun on her, and I'm trying to make sure everything is alright, because I don't want no shit to go down like it went previously in this place. So you need to let me know what's going on. Let me know what's going on. So of course Boyd is like, alright, it was Father Cotry. And he was like, what the hell? Like, Father Cotry doesn't exist. So anyway, so we head back over to the colony house, and we see Ellis is now talking about he's looking into the light, whatnot, and they was like, look, we're gonna have to get him to the clinic. Somebody was like, oh, there's no way. But they was like, look, we got it. Fatima and everyone is like, look, we got to get him to the van or something, because right now he's not going to survive throughout the night. We got to get him over to the clinic. So from there, we see Elgin volunteers. He's like, look, just follow me. He goes out, and while he's going out of the, the colony house, somebody over in the corner is like, oh, where you going? I was like, run, Elgin, run. So Elgin is running, and he runs over to the van, and these two jokers come out of nowhere. They walking real slow and fast at the same time. And while they're walking, Elgin finally jumps up in the van. I was hoping to hell that the van was not locked, because that would be such a terrible situation. So Elgin gets into the van, man, and he's looking for the keys. I don't know why he didn't look in the visor to begin with. But anyway, he finally finds the keys. When he, finally starts the van, the people are right up on the van. And of course, they're not in a hurry at all, right? They clean from head to toe, like somebody done perm pressed they clothes. I don't know who's doing these monsters' clothes, bro, but they doing the hell out of them, man. So anyway, he drives up to the front porch. They hurry up and jump in, and then all of a sudden some other creatures, some other monsters hop out. And I was like, hell to the no, here they go. So anyway, so they drive, and I was hoping that Elgin could see, because the way he was driving and he kept turning around, looking in the back, I was like, please do not run into a tree or an obstacle, like, focus on the road, Elgin. So anyway, they make it finally to the clinic, and they start to, take him out. They beat on the door, and of course, I was like, please, somebody let them in, because I was assuming that they was thinking it was one of the monsters. But Christy looks out the window, and she was like, oh hell. So they let him in, and they put him down on the cot so they can check him out. Obviously, he has a ton of blood in his lungs, so they have to relieve the pressure from that. Once again, we do not know what happened to the Potato Man. The Potato Man is probably out, ousted out of the house. I'm not sure, but we no longer know where he is at this point. But anyway, getting back to the scene of the crime here, they're trying to, pretty much operate on him to save his life. So I wasn't assuming that he was going to pass during this episode. I just figured that he was going to be okay, because I think, honestly, everything that's going on with Boyd right now, it would have been too much shit for him to handle at this point. So from there, they was like, okay, he's lost a ton of blood, and we're going to need to give him a transfusion. And they asked Boyd, what is his blood type? And he says, oh, it's O negative or O positive, something like that, I believe. It was O something, I know that for sure. So when he said that, and they asked what was Ellis's, and he said the same thing. So they was like, oh, perfect. So we can just hook you up, get you ready. And he was like, hold on. Like, y'all not about to put my blood in him. Like, I just told you what was going on inside my body. I was like, hell yeah. Listen, Boyd already done told y'all he got the worms up. And they was like, listen, we ain't seen no damn worms, man. Just calm the hell down. Go on and give your son some blood so he can live or whatnot. So in the midst of the heat of the argument, Boyd begins to have this whole situation where he starts to tremble once again. And it seems like every time he gets in a tough situation or something starts to, raise up in him, that's when he has these, what I'll call these episodes, right? So he's arguing back and forth with Fatima and Christy, and all of a sudden he starts to pull at his arm once again. And that's when everyone is actually able to see the worms. And Mary's like, oh, hell, I see him. And Christopher's like, shit, I see him too. So now all of a sudden, everybody finally believes, boy, he's not losing his damn mind. Like, he actually has these worms in him. Like, he cannot give his son any blood right now. So then Kenny's crazy ass jumps up with a knife and is like, give him to me. You said Martin gave him to you, give him to me, and you can save your son's life. Like, are you on a suicidal mission, bro? Like, is that what you're looking to do? Because we could just put you outside for that. Is that really what you're looking to do right now? So, Boyd is like, listen, no, I'm not going to give him to you. I'm not going to give him to anybody. But while he's in the midst of talking in that manner, he starts to think like, shit, I need to give these things to somebody, because truth be told, Kenny is making a lot of damn sense about giving it to somebody, because it was given to me. So I was like, all right, so Boyd, what are you going to do, Boyd? So Boyd decides to go outside. And it's like, where the hell are you going? He was like, listen, I got this. So then he goes outside, closes the door behind himself, and he starts to call for the monsters. And I'm like, hell to the no, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing, Boyd? Like, so I see what he's trying to do. He's trying to draw attention to himself, and he calls the monsters out. So he's walking out in the middle of the street. I was like, hell, get your ass back to the place. And so anyhow, he goes on out there, and he stands out in the middle of the road. He's still calling for him, and guess who shows up? Mr. Smiley himself. So I was like, out of all the damn monsters that you could call upon, the one that I feel is like one of the starters in this shit, or the stars of the monsters, shows up, right? So he comes out, he's smiling, and I was like, okay, this is a 1 versus 1 type of situation. I should have known better, right? Because Boyd walks up and he was like, yeah, I got this. You come on down here. Come on down here. So Mr. Smiley's sitting there, and he starts to walk forward, and then all of a sudden, folks start walking from every angle. I was like, oh, I said, come on, Boyd. So anyway, Boyd then takes the knife out. He slits his hand, and he starts to say, come on. So Mr. Smiley looks at his hand, and he keeps walking forward. And then Mr. Smiley's like, come on, guys, let's go on and do it. That's what he's saying without saying it in words, right? So they start to approach him real slowly and fast at the same time. And Boyd is like, oh, hell. So anyway, he just takes his chances and he swings the knife at Mr. Smiley's throat. So it actually cuts Mr. Smiley. But of course, it didn't bother him worth none. So he's standing there. He was like, oh, I like this guy. Then this man starts... he starts to approach him again. So Boyd is like, oh, hell no. So then with the hand that he just cut, he grabs the throat of Mr. Smiley and he just holds his hand there. And then all of a sudden, you know, it starts to pull or drain something from him, like it's draining, you know, his energy or some shit. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So Mr. Smiley is just sitting there still smiling. And then all of a sudden, you know, he jerks his hand back, and I'm like, oh, hell, what's about to go down? Because now Mr. Smiley is getting ready to run back up on him once again. So I was like, damn, that didn't work, boy. So we thought. Because now Mr. Smiley's sitting up there, and he's having the shakes, rattle, and the rolls, man. And he's up there shaking and jigging it out, man. And all of a sudden, he grabs his throat, and he falls down on the daggone ground. And I was like, oh, boy done killed a monster. Even with all the shit that has been going down, the one thing that I did not think was going to happen due to blood was that a monster was going to die due to blood. I thought, you know, with everything that was going down, that somebody was going to cut the monster's head off or something like that from the things that I read. You know, not trying to get into much of the spoilers because I try not to. I try to keep it as authentic as possible when I'm doing these reviews, man. But blood killing a monster, I wasn't even thinking on that level, bro. So anyhow, so it kills. So we think, I'm just thinking, it killed Mr. Smiley, and then these monsters run up on Mr. Smiley, and they're just looking at him and looking at one another. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So are they going to devour him, or are they just going to leave him alone? And I be John Brown. These folks just turned around, did a whole about face, and walked off. I was like, what? Went on about their merry business, bro. So anyhow, man, I don't even know how to explain that. So anyway, going on from there, we get back into the clinic, and Boyd feels good to give his son a transfusion. Everything is good there. We see the conversation between Donna and Ethan, and she talks about fear, how fear is like the strongest emotion to have, because without fear, you would never have any heroes. And I absolutely agree, because with fear, it gives you strength like none other. Like, you've seen people be able to build, you know, move things that they thought they would never be able to move due to the adrenaline and shit like that out of fear. So I believe that's true, Donna. So we'll move on from there. After that, we see Boyd and Christy. They're down in the clinic. Everybody's good. Ethan wakes up. He's good. You know, he thought he was, you know, dead pretty much. Everything worked out, so we think. So that's what I'm hoping. Everything has worked out. Fatima is emotional because he feels like she's almost, you know, she almost lost Ellis. So, you know, all this time you were bickering about some shit that wasn't important, and now somebody, you know, almost died on a cot. You know what I'm saying? So life is short in a one. Anyway, from there, Boyd heads over to the window to look out the door, and he still sees Mr. Smiley on his back laid up. And Kenny walks over and he said, I should have trusted you. I should have believed in you. So I think that the relationship will finally start to get better with Kenny and Boyd once again, because Kenny is finally seeing that Boyd, you know, even though he has kept some shit away from him, at the end of the day, he still has the best interest for everyone in that town to survive. So from there, man, that's pretty much it on this episode, man. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Please like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss nothing going down. Also, I look forward to episode number 7. What do you think is going to happen? There was a lot of dancing going on with ballet dancer and Boyd, a lot of suspense, and now I'm really interested in what's about to go down with the corpse of, you know, Mr. Smiley out there. So who knows what's going to happen. All right, so with that being said, I'm about to sign off. Peace.